What's up, Flomies? Jesse Hart of Full Circle Phenomenal here. Welcome to the Sacred Flow Art channel. Today, I'm right outside Medellin, Colombia. We've made it to our second continent at long last. And I have here today the legendary, one of the founding fathers, as I consider, of flow arts in general, Zan Moore, who's actually up in Northern Oregon, where Catherine and I basically left from and will return to. And I thank you, Zan, so much for being here. Zan is the co-creator of the Encyclopedia, which we'll talk to you about that here in a little bit, as well as the trick Zans Diamond. So if you've ever heard of that trick, this is the guy who created it. And we'll go into how he ended up creating that as well. Thanks for being here with me, Zan. How are you today?
I am just wonderful. So happy to be here with you. Thanks for the invitation. I've been really looking forward to this conversation.
Right on, right on. Yeah, I'm sure people really appreciate it. So I'll just jump right into these, answer them however you like. The first part, let's start with the past. What is your origin story of poi spinning and of the flow arts scene in general as you grew to know it? What event or series of events started it?
Yeah, great question. I'd be happy to answer it. So I first saw fire dancing at the Oregon Country Fair, which is a kind of alternative counterculture festival. It's been going on for 50 years now. And I was a teenager. I grew up in Oregon and I went out there and I watched the fire show for a few years. And it was a big deal. It was, of course, as you probably know, very exciting to watch fire dancing, especially as the uninitiated. It seemed almost untouchable, sort of like godlike. How are these people doing this? And so we would watch these shows, be very enthralled. And then I never really considered doing it until I was on a similar adventure to your own to some degree. I was traveling around South America. And as in my young 20s, I was looking for a way to travel forever. I tried a few things out. I was doing river guiding, I was playing music, and I also started street performing. And so I was with my brother, my older brother by 2 years, and we learned a variety of kind of juggling, circusy street performance arts. So we started with, we just kind of did some tennis balls and socks, learned some poi, built some staves, folded our own fire wicks out of denim. Whatever we could find. It was...
Yep.
But so that was in the early 2000s. And it's interesting that you kind of call me a founding father. I think it represents that there's sort of this bifurcation point in a way where at the time that I was getting into it and other people around me, there were, of course, people who predated us by at least a decade. And yet that was kind of a critical moment in which it was gaining momentum in a way. And so certainly as early as the early 90s, there were a number of people around doing their thing. Robert Hart doing fire staff juggling. Sage was in Austin doing her fire performance for a long time. Home of Poi already existed. But there were a couple of things that maybe kept it at bay. There were pretty good scenes in both Seattle, Washington, and maybe out in Colorado too. A couple of places where there were, a handful of people. And of course, there was still Burning Man in those early days as well. So that's before my time. And so at the time I was getting into it, I looked back at these other people and thought, oh, that's the old school. That's the original, the OG. I think something important about the development at that time was, well, a couple. One is that the early days were also characterized by a lot of kind of secret knowledge. It wasn't like a copy left, open sharing kind of thing. Some people spent a lot of time developing how the actual technology of what type of fuels to use to do fire spinning and how to make their own wicks. There wasn't a lot of commercially available. And so those were their carefully guarded performance secrets. And maybe you got trained by someone as a protege, but generally it wasn't. What came around after was I was just part of a new wave that was like, let's teach everybody. You want to know? I'll tell you. I have no secrets. There was a lot more openness and sharing and workshops and retreats, and the festivals started and all this stuff. With the second point that I was going to mention is the development of internet-based social technology and communication. Because when I got started, we were literally describing moves we would invent in text-based forums. YouTube didn't exist, and also most people did not have access to a video recording device of any kind. And so it's hard to even imagine now where every single person has a video recording device in their pocket and could within 30 seconds film something and send it directly. I think that the advent of more readily available video and sharing mediums really fueled the idea of the sharing because it was no longer... it took a great deal of patience and meticulousness to peruse the text. And that was really, I know we'll probably get to it a little bit later, but that was some of the impetus to make the Encyclopedia in the first place, was that there wasn't a broadly available kind of database of high-level moves and kind of the advanced. It's not like I was the only cutting edge, but sort of the cutting edge of what was being developed in real time versus the lag time on people recording and uploading batches of kind of like beginner videos and so forth.
Leading up to an Encyclopedia, we'll get up to that. But first I want to know about the trick that you created, the Zans Diamond. You're known for it. What prompted you to develop this trick, and how did you go about creating it?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic example of the unpredictable nature of cultural memes. So in this case, perhaps I was the first person to do this trick. I was certainly the first person that we all knew to do this trick. I didn't give it a name. People just sort of later gave it that moniker. At the time that it was created, people still actually knew me. But later, now it comes, I've heard these stories of people saying, oh yeah, I met Zan of Zans Diamond. They're like, that's not a real person. It's just the name of a trick. I just, that brings me a tremendous amount of joy and humor to hear that type of thing, because at one time I couldn't go anywhere without people knowing in advance who I was and that I was coming. So it's great to fade into anonymity as now the founding father, like relegated to the past. I'm actually really content with that.
Well, I apologize if I'm bringing it back.
No, it's great. The history of Zans Diamond is kind of the following. So I was in a performance troupe with my brother Noah, and we did a couple of really long, actually too long tours. We were doing 4 months at a time over the summer. We'd do like 70 shows, drive about 15,000 miles. It was exhausting. And after one of these tours of the US, I developed neck problems from sleeping in the van and over all these months. And so I was really trying to figure out how I could continue practicing in the fall. And so part of it is I worked a lot on my contact juggling, and I would kind of sit in a good posture where I wouldn't hurt my neck and work on different stall points and isolations and stuff like that. And so through the contact juggling, I got into, at that time, what we were considering a British style, which was a lot of isolation, pop lock, robot, waving, kind of illusion type stuff. And I thought, how could I work this into poi? I got a little bit of range of mobility back. I can move my shoulders again. How could I use these robot-like motions and the idea of stopping and going in a way that is really counter to the idea of, when you learn poi, you're like, I'm doing the weave, right? It's circular, it's flowy, it's continuous. So how can you make it, quantized and linear and stop and go? And so I didn't come up with the techniques of linear extension and linear isolation, but I was thinking, how can I put these to good effect? What are the ways that I can actually drive energy into the poi while moving my body in a line? And so I started working with those to create the idea of just kind of like moving. So I put them together into a couple of different timing and direction combinations, a couple of different patterns. And one of those was, of course, the diamond shape, which is just the 2 points where I can reach out to the side and reaching up and down. That was one of the more popular ones when I toured the the festival circuit, and I taught a couple of workshops on it, and people picked up on it. It wasn't the only pattern that I had or that I was working with. To me, it was the kind of a genre, a style, as it were, a movement. But that one sort of got famous because I put it in this video called Poi Transmission. It was one of my favorite videos on poi that I ever edited. If you haven't checked it out, I'd suggest it. It was a lot of fun. Alien John was in there, and it debuted the idea of we were overlaying 3D simulation of poi with the actual person doing the trick and kind of cross-fading. The opening of that video is me doing the diamond shape with this overlay that I had drawn by hand, and it kind of broke out into that.
Moving forward on the other things that you developed and in what has just been recently digitized and released for the public, you went on to creating so much more and put a lot of that into the downloadable now version of the Encyclopedia, Volume 1 and Volume 2. What are they specifically? How and when were they created originally? And what can people expect from watching them?
I created the first Encyclopedia it was released in 2006, and the second one in 2009. They are instructional DVDs, instructional videos that were released on DVD, and now the DVD is no longer a thing. We've finally gotten around to putting them online. We've made it kind of pay what you want. You can take them for free. They're up online now.
And we're going to provide, by the way, a link for that is going to be down in the video description, so be sure to check that out before you click off this video.
Yeah, so from the beginning, of course, the idea is to help people learn poi, learn it better, learn it faster, learn it easier. The Encyclopedia Volume 1 is, here's a family of tricks, here's some variations of tricks from easy to hard, and here's some kind of tweaks and advanced variations, and here's a video of all of them. And so that, I mean, the name Encyclopedia is not a happenstance. I'm a very detail-oriented, methodical, and thorough individual by nature. So as I explored tricks and trick families and found variations, I tried to catalog them, systematize them, and present them as a whole. And so the chapters cover different things like, tangle moves or moves that go under the legs, or, a variety of things like that. And that video was fine for its time. The content was great. The production quality, which are things like, lighting and the quality of video and so forth, there was room for improvement. It was my first project that I produced. So Encyclopedia 2 was the follow-up, and it really hit the mark for what I was trying to create. I brought in Alien John to design the video with me in terms of its instructional content, and to cover a new understanding we had about poi in general. Kind of really, the subtitle for the video is A New System of Poi Spinning. And you might watch the video and say, well, that is an intuitive system of poi spinning. But the fact remains that at that moment, it had not been categorized like that until that time. Breaking things out into their driving styles, the different ways that you can put energy into a poi to keep it spinning in different ways, and essentially the harmonic proportions of different sizes of circles and how they can create hybrids and overlapping flower shapes. I tried to do everything I could to make it as high quality as possible, so spent a lot more time on the video end of things. And I grew up, I was never a good skateboarder, but I tried to skateboard. And at the time, there was all this media around. You could follow professional skateboarders, you could subscribe, and they would mail you VHS tapes, and you would watch these things where they would talk to professional skaters. And I said, we should do that. That's a way we can help make flow arts mainstream, we should popularize it by showing who's out there. And so I had a lot of really great performer friends. In addition to teaching the poi in that video, I flew around the country and filmed a bunch of other what I thought were really top-level spinners, and tried to distribute, kind of show a variety of what was available. Some people who were really technical, kind of heady, and some people who were really just into like the performance and the spirit of movement and so forth. And so I was the first person to my knowledge to create something in our little niche community of flow arts called The Profile, in which it was not about just a person's performance, but was about who they are. Interviews cut back and forth with their performances. And so that was the Encyclopedia 2. It was released in 2009. And the quality of the product to me is there's no comparison. It's so much better in every way. But it had this really unfortunate thing is we launched it at the end of the DVD boom, so to speak. At that point, the market was sort of saturated, where Encyclopedia 1 was the second poi DVD, perhaps, ever. The Encyclopedia 2, maybe 8 DVDs came out in between, and other people were launching their own tutorials and stuff like that. And so, in addition, people were just using YouTube and downloadable stuff a lot more, and so we never really got that many of Encyclopedia 2 out there, comparatively. And so now that it is released for free online, I've been thinking for a number of years, the content is not dead. Alien John he's a brilliant guy. I don't know if you've ever met him. Really creative, very forward-thinking, ingenious. And so he said, as we were designing the script and everything, he said, we should be very careful about what we say. Let's not say that anything is hard. Let's not say that anything is impossible. Say that it will take time to learn. Because what is hard to us now will not be hard to people later. So we helped to future-proof the content a little bit by saying things like, a point isolation is very difficult to keep going. Things like, it's like, no one has ever done this is what we really wanted to say. But we're just kind of conceptually laying the framework for what is possible. And a lot of the things, we made up brand new moves for the video that had never been created, just in the process of hanging out. Polyrhythmic hybrid flowers and stuff, which, if you don't know what that is, it sounds more complicated than maybe it is. Your hands do different things, and they make cool overlapping patterns, like you're using 2 different cogs of the spirograph simultaneously. And but your poi are moving at different speeds and different directions and so forth. And so we just kind of created some, but then we put it in there like, this is just a move, you can learn this move. I was just really happy with the way it turned out, in that we squeezed a lot of stuff in that was really, it was cutting edge enough that, the third time it had ever been done was when we recorded a tutorial on how to do it. So I'm really happy to get that material back out now, because I have not been traveling around and teaching workshops and retreats anymore for some years, but some of this stuff I think can still really help. Even if it is not the cutting edge now, clearly, it still lays a really solid foundation for much of what I see is out there. Systematize an interaction between how can poi move, how can bodies move, and how can you create aesthetic harmonic relation between them?
What I noticed from the Encyclopedia is it really helps to put a notion as to all these things that you've been watching other really advanced flow artists do. This is how they describe themselves doing it. And that's what's really helped me, and I know that's what's really going to help our viewers in the long run. As I learned from this, they should go check it out. Once again, the link is in the video description. Support Zan and his work and Alien John. They did a really great job in ways that maybe I'll never even be able to match. So you said you created more tricks that were on this DVD. I'm wondering, what were those tricks, as well as what else have you done as it relates to flow arts, from events, festivals, things like that as well?
I was deeply involved in spinning poi for probably 10 or 12 years. And at times, like I'm sure many of your viewers, when I was really into it, maybe 4 hours a day. So the number of techniques that I came up with that I hadn't seen anyone else do, it's probably maybe 100 or something like that. Which ones really passed down to work for other people and have names? Of course, there's Zans Diamond. The other one is the meltdown, which is kind of a repetitive waist wrap type of thing, like this kind of thing.
Yeah, we have a tutorial on that as well.
So I came up with that when I was living in Salvador, Brazil, and then put out a bunch of variations and so forth on it. I was pretty pleased with that one. I ended up doing a lot of work and stuff that some of it was unique to my own body style. I'm tall and kind of lanky, and I have long arms. And so in the early days I was doing, what was the one? I even forget what we called it. It was when we were doing like crossers and straight jackets. I can't remember what I came up with, where I had one arm crossed behind my body and the other one crossed in front. I can't even do it now, but was doing like crossers that is like, I don't know, weird stuff like that. Plus a lot of under the legs. I'm tall, so I have long legs. I have more space to play with, and I like to jump and spin and leap. So lots of stuff was like, how can I jump and do a 360 in the air while I cross my poi under, and then when I spin, they cross back out. And it's like, I don't know. It just like, we're all doing it, right? We're having fun, we're playing. And I would use that as an encouragement to people to continue to explore. It's not like the best way to do technique is to copy what's being done. Part of it is unique to you. Like not only what can you do, but what brings you joy? What feels good in your body, I think, is a really sound way forward. It's not, imitation is an important first step, but can only get us so far. So, the other tricks, I'm happy that they just like drift away into the nether regions of imaginal space, because who knows, they had their time and now they're gone. Beyond just the techniques, I really felt an evolution in my own path with flow arts related to community and community building, because for a while, to me, it started out as a very personal pursuit. I would spin by myself, explore my mind, my body, my heart, create shapes and patterns and movements and dances and performances. But then what became ultimately for me more meaningful was what I could create with other people and what we could share together. So I founded the Flow Arts Institute with, at the time, my partner Noel Yee and our other partner Kevin Axtell. And that was a major change because, we'd been putting on festivals, Fire Drums for a long time, Pacific Fire, and it ended up growing. But at the time, we were still all calling it fire dancing or fire spinning. There was synonymous to talk about the use of fire and these arts. Then there was also this other tact of kind of object manipulation, which was like juggling, but with other stuff, right? And so we chose the name Flow Arts Institute to find a merger that would also be appealing, right? I mean, kind of marketable. We didn't come up with the idea of flow arts. The first time I heard that was actually a longstanding community member in San Francisco named Khan, who talked about the flow arts, and we said, yeah, that's the direction this is going. Daytime props, glow props, like how can we create the state of flow without needing to, one, potentially put ourselves in danger with fire, which of course is overcomeable, but also the use of fossil fuels was on our minds. So we said, let's go this other direction. Let's call it flow arts. Let's have festivals where there are nighttime indoor jams and, all trying to expand really beyond fire. Flow Arts Institute fire drums, campfire, Pacific Fire, Kinetic Fire, Flame Festival. I mean, so we put a lot of time into building that community. And to me, it was the next logical step, which was I started out performing. And, even at a big show, I could affect maybe 2,500 people for a short time. And then I started teaching, right? And I was traveling around the country, doing workshops, putting on retreats in other countries, and even making the Encyclopedia. I was reaching thousands of people. I mean, we've got thousands of copies of these videos around the world. And that was a step forward. But then it was like, okay, how can I do it in a way that's even less about me? How can I do it in a way that is about really bringing us together and forming almost a crystalline structure and cohesiveness to this? And that became my work in community organizing, because a lot of these festivals are volunteer run. And so our job was about finding people in the local community who are already leaders and who have relevant skills and interest and enthusiasm, bringing them together and helping them sort of coalesce into the momentum that is required to put on an event. And beyond just putting on an event, the regularity and the commitment that is required to make it long-standing, to make it outlive us. And so to me, one of the proudest moments I had was after founding Pacific Fire, from actually being the person who had the idea to begin the festival, 10 years later, passing off the role of general manager to my competent colleague, Shireen, and actually stepping away and not even attending the festival for a year. So that was kind of the final phase of my deep involvement in the flow arts, was assisting in the way that I could with this burgeoning community. More and more people coming up, learning, wanting to share, to teach, to come together, to just play and celebrate the fun that it is to engage in these arts. And so that was the work with the Flow Arts Institute, where it was, hundreds of people making these festivals happen, but behind the scenes for a while, just 2 of us building this, and then 3, and then eventually maybe 5 people who was like, I would sit at home and run all the books and bookkeeping and tax filing for every purchase that was made anywhere in the country to put on these festivals. So it's, it's not glamorous, but it is necessary.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow. That's super great. That's really insightful. And it sounds like there's a whole nother tangent that could go off on in like a book or maybe another video for people who are interested in how the whole process from start to finish goes. But moving on, what are you doing with Flow Arts now? And do you have any plans for the future?
In the sense that I think you're asking the question, what I'm doing with Flow Arts now is limited to only reminiscing. I am not spinning or dancing with props on a regular basis. I'm not making up new tricks. I'm not teaching anybody. I'm not practicing. I have 3 kids now. They are 7, 4, and 5 months old.
Wow.
And parents probably know that it takes a lot of attention. I'll say that. So at the moment that kids came, there were a lot of decisions to make about anything that was not core to life. Anything at the periphery just kind of fell away for lack of bandwidth. And so I had to be selective about what I chose. And some of the very final shows I did were shortly after the birth of my first kid. What I've really put my passion into now that I would consider true to the spirit of Flow Arts is I really enjoy making music. And you can see I'm actually doing this interview in my music room. I've got some drums and guitars and flutes and didgeridoos and pianos and all kinds of stuff. And to me, that has been the most, recently, the most meaningful and also the most reliable way to generate a state of flow, right? To find the edge of challenge that matches ability, to get into the state of creativity and spontaneity that is at the same time built upon the foundation of technical practice. And because I continue to find a lot of inspiration there, it is easy for me to receive the music and the content of other people who are experts beyond what I will ever achieve in this lifetime. And that really draws me forward in a way that it doesn't have the same kind of pressure to consistently be the one pushing the envelope. Anyhow, long story short, that's what I've been doing for Flow myself, is to make music. And you can check it out if you want I put out some music at zansounds.com. I put up a couple records I produced, and also at raganova.com, which is kind of a world fusion, like sitar, Latin, Brazilian kind of thing. Raga Nova. And so that's sort of what I've been up to. I still have some tools around, like I encourage my kids to play with sticks. I've got some short versions of like toy-poi and stuff like that. But even stronger than that, I encourage them to practice the piano and the guitar. And so that's where it's at.
Everything is a prop. It's all flow arts one way or another. Whether you're hitting keys or strumming on strings or twirling poi around, it's all muscle memory and seeing what feels right. I'll definitely check out your website, and we'll provide a link for that too, for your sounds.
Yeah, it's a matter, to a large extent, I feel like flow arts prepared me for the rest of my life by teaching me in incredible detail what it is to learn anything. Not just learn, but to master. What is the process of mastery? So how can I see something I've never done for the first time, engage with it meaningfully, effectively, and efficiently without becoming overwhelmed, to track and develop my own progress, and to, as quickly as possible, cement things into a state of ease and effortless muscle memory so that I can then create something unique that is an expression of myself based on a technical foundation. I mean, that is everything that I do in music every day that I practice. And it wouldn't, of course, just be music. I feel that it has given me the firm foundation to be able to engage confidently in any new practice by simply understanding the learning framework and knowing how the process lays out and how I can engage with it wherever I am.
That's exactly why I decided to start my foundation with yoga, qigong, and meditation, because I was like, this is like the fundamental of mastery. Flow arts came really shortly after it, and I decided to add it to the repertoire of things I was going to devote my life to, for that exact same reason of learning about how to master something, how to devote your inner and outer awareness to something for a long period of time, and essentially study about the intricacies of how you learn in general, how you move and learn and think all at the same time. And that flows perfectly into one of my final questions, which is, since you've been through the ringer now, with flow arts and moving on now with kids and with other projects, what would you say to the modern day beginner or maybe intermediate flow artist paving the way into making flow arts one of their mainstream activities and possibly even a way of living or a career?
That's a great question. I have a few reflections that perhaps would be helpful. One is that you're a traveler. I have the incredible good fortune of being able to travel quite a bit in my life. And I realize that when I go somewhere else, that I am an ambassador. That as much as I would like to be freewheeling and only represent myself, people see me as an emissary of the place that I'm from, of the people and the culture that I'm from. And so I feel in that some responsibility to represent us well. And so that's the first thing that I would point out as a parallel to flow arts. If we really want flow arts to be in the mainstream, we need to recognize that we are the ambassadors of flow arts to whoever we meet. And so if a person comes up to you for the first time and they've never seen it and they're really excited and you're in the park with them or something, and they say, wow, what is that? Will you show me how to do it? You have the chance, of course, to just like put your earbuds back in and turn the other way and be like, sorry, I'm busy. I'm working on my routine. Or you could say, yeah, it's so great. Like, let me tell you what I love about this. Here, hold on to these things. Like, try this out, spin this around, and it's sometimes difficult to do. But the more we can develop ourselves and our own, the ability to express our passion in a way that is authentic and yet not overbearing, but at the same time quite generous, I think will really help fuel the edge of that as it grows outward. Because, I don't think I have to give a lot more examples of the ways that we could behave that might shut people down without that being our intention. And so understanding that we are ambassadors of this culture going outward, especially at the time when I was into it in the early days, I think it is difficult to deny that at least in some places, there is an overlap of flow arts culture and kind of a counterculture of recreational substance use. And I'm not putting any judgment on that. I'm just observing that some places where I go, those things coexist. For example, the use of marijuana was very much a part of my practice in the early years with flow arts. And it just seems like at the same time, there's the possibility that that might alienate people who don't really connect with that. And that we would need to, in the same way that if you were running a business, like a small business, you wouldn't like go out and, light a spliff behind your booth while like the kids are watching or something, right? Like you're representing a business that you're trying to grow. And I point back to, there's this really incredible visionary, Burning Dan. I don't know if you're familiar. He is deceased now. He had an untimely death. And he was starting the Flow Temple in LA with the help of some other great people. But his goal was like, we're going to get the soccer moms in for poi class. It's like, I mean, it doesn't get more mainstream than that. You drop them at school, you come in, you do your poi, you know? And so they were forming a school and really targeting people that were not the main demographic, like 20-something, lots of free time, already in the counterculture, goes to festivals. Like, we got those people. And yeah, more are welcome, but how do we actually break outside the demographic mold? And so he was doing some really great work on trying to specifically target that audience. But my one other point I wanted to mention in terms of how people can potentially, what I would reflect on how to make this living and so forth, is that I would just stay aware that there is inevitably the tendency for something that you love to do, as it becomes a business or becomes your profession, there is the tendency for it to become that other people will make the decisions about how you do it. And this isn't unique to flow arts. You know, it's like, let's say I love riding bikes. I'm going to start a bike shop. Then my life will be bikes. And now that I run a successful bike shop, I sit in the back office and I fill out the payroll. Well, I have mechanics build the bikes and I have customers ride the bikes. And all I do is push the pen. So with flow arts, there's the like, well, this is the kind of art I want to make. But this is the kind of art that gets me hired to birthday parties or whatever it is. So inevitably, you are making trade-offs along the way. And I just want to point out that it's not worth giving up all of the part that you really like just to try and make it successful or pay the bills. Like, you need part of it that keeps driving your authentic passion, even if that isn't the part that you take out and show to people to make money. Otherwise, it will inevitably become sort of soulless, so to speak. And I think that what we really need, if we're talking about mainstream, is people need to see that this can really lead to a more meaningful, more fulfilled, more passionate life. And whether that means that you have to kind of maintain a part-time job so you can be really kind of clear about why you're doing what you're doing with flow arts, that to me seems like a fine solution. So there are many pathways. I just don't want to give up on the part that really drives us, on the heart of the art.
Definitely. And that's really what we're representing here at Sacred Flow Art too, is how to really enjoy all the aspects of flow arts. Everything from the companies that make the props, the people who design the tricks, to those who are organizing spin jams up to festivals, to those who are doing semi-professional or small gigs for friends and family, up into what Catherine and I would like to work into, which is like Cirque du Soleil type arts, where fire is like the primary, fire spinning is the primary point of focus on it, and really just do absolutely incredible things. But yeah, I see what you mean. Where is the line between doing it for party fun, nonchalant, just a hobby that you do with your buds, and doing it to something that is very mainstream that you're getting paid for and you have to keep a certain level of professional poise and expertise with? And where is that line in between having fun but then having it be soulless? And so far we're doing, I feel like, pretty good here, because we're still beginners. We still have that humility of recognizing this isn't something that we have mastered or something that we can show off our pretty blue ribbon or a gold medal or whatever it is, or whatever it may become if it becomes too mainstream, and becomes an Olympic sport or something. What happens when flow arts can be judged? And see if we can just keep riding that line and expanding and keeping it fun for ourselves, for the old school, for the new school, for everybody in between and outside of.
There's no right way about it. It's really just, I'm just saying to bring awareness. There's a hip hop artist in Eugene where I grew up, and one of his lines was, part of modern art is how you practice business. And so all I'm saying is, it's true. Well, let's just all look at that and see what is true for us around the fact that, like, yes, we have to make a living, and yes, we also have to be true to ourselves. And so how can we do that tactfully, tastefully, gracefully?
And please, to those who are watching, leave a comment down in the comment section below and let us know how you yourself have developed this art as a profession that other people might want to know, or other people that you've seen and how they did it. We'd really appreciate hearing multiple different perspectives on this. So Zan, starting to wrap things up, is there anything else that you would like to express, or would you like other people to know out there in the world? So just kind of giving you free range to say what you want.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm recalling now I had some thoughts at the time that I was, several years ago, I mentioned to some degree transitioning out of my active work in the flow arts, my active practice. And one thing that, well, it's a whole set of things really that came to me at the time. Is I was reflecting on what is the role of flow arts in the course of an individual's lifespan. Because even when I was kind of on the up and up, there were people that had been spinning for a decade and kind of tapering off. And as I look back for examples of people that have been doing it for, just pick a big number, 10, 15, 20 years, it really there aren't that many of them. And so there's this kind of continual rotation, which is natural and healthy. And yet I was wondering, what is the purpose? What is the meaning of this shift? And I could see how in my own life, the tremendous benefits that I had gained from this really exceeded the nature of the performance routines or the dances or the movements I'd come up with. I mentioned my ability to learn and to acquire new skills, but also I think the healing goes a lot farther than we might think. Because there is physical healing, mobility, weight loss, these types of things that flow arts can be really good for. But in addition, it begs the question, what is health? And I think that we could set a higher standard. Health is not the absence of disease, but if I picture, what is the pinnacle of health, what about someone who, wakes up every day with excitement and enthusiasm and the wish to serve, to offer their gifts to the benefit of others, and who is well respected by their community and also supported in kind of a mutuality, and is creative, full of vitality and very generous and give. It's like how good could it be? And I think that this can help us in many regards with that as well. In terms of what is the purpose of life? It might be bigger than get really good at staff spinning or something like that, but it might not be a whole lot bigger than be happy and joyful and express yourself creatively while offering love to other people in a way that they can receive and therefore mutually respect you, and then build the generative state of community. It's like, maybe that's it, something like that, right? So I witness the way that it shifts, and I think that's okay, and it's natural. At one point I feel like when I was a young man, I said, I'm going to spin poi till I die. It's like lifelong commitment. But that's actually the antithesis of flow, isn't it? That is stagnation. That is a fixed idea that it sets bumpers on your lane that defy the ability of life to find its natural way, to flow through its natural course. That what we need to do is continue to be present. And that if this can teach us to be more present, then that's even better, So what part of the things that really turned me off at the end when I was moving away from flow arts was it seemed to be overly focused on technique. And there was more of a tendency for flow arts to perform for flow artists, that the technique had gone so far that unless you could actually do the preliminary technique, you wouldn't understand the advanced variation. Whereas sometimes, what people want to see, they just want to see you do a buzzsaw and the fire gets really close to your face, right? So there's the kind of dichotomy between everybody likes this unless they know about poi, and then everybody who likes poi likes to see this, but they're totally distinct. And so that to me is it's moving in the direction which is away from mainstream, which is there is a higher price of entry just to actually be able to observe and to appreciate the art. So I started teaching classes that were not about technique. My last few years of classes were all about, at first, how to enjoy it more. I taught a class called Maximum Poi Fun. And we would do all kinds of wacky stuff, run around and in and through each other and try to use our poi like paintbrushes to trace whatever natural scenery we had. And then at one point we actually snuck into the forest and ambushed another workshop in the middle of their tricks with our poi, play attacking them. And of course, as you can imagine, everyone had a fantastic time. Even the staff spinners were like, I'm glad that happened, right? So again, the idea of maybe we got the blinders on too much. Maybe we think we know what this is about, but it is still in ways that we don't always perceive. We're actually limiting the sphere of possibilities for interaction, which I think is what's missing in a lot of times. You go out in a field of fire spinners and no one's looking at each other, right? Even if their eyes are open, the focus is clearly internal versus hey, we're here together. What are we creating? Hey, what's going on over there? Dance with me. That kind of that spark of life, that sort of natural connection, I think is a place that we could all really grow.
Yeah, I remember when I first was researching what flow arts was, there was another term that came up as what it could have been called, which was dexterity play, which I think is what you're kind of defining or alluding to, is this dexteritous, we're using our bodies, we're dancing, but we're playing with these toys, with these objects, and remember that ultimately it and life and experiencing is about that. It's about the enjoyment of it. It's not necessarily having an end-all goal of being to a certain popular degree or making a certain amount of money with it or developing a certain amount of techniques and all of this jargon. Those are nice goals and things to have, or nice little sets standards or achievements, but ultimately it is about play, right?
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Our techniques they're our tools. It's our toolkit, and that's very valuable. But it's not, you're like, hey, check this out. It's like, well, those are your tools. Like, what are you going to do with them? Like, show me what you do. Make some art, and then I'll check out your art. I don't want to look at your tools,
Uh-huh.
So by the end, then I even gave up on that. I was just teaching lecture classes at the end. And we would just kind of talk and discuss and philosophize and talk about like energetic systems theory. Like, how do we even go to one more meta principle? Like, okay, we're making these patterns. Okay, these patterns exist as fundamental expressions of moving bodies in relation. What does that have to do with my life and my choices and my ethics? And so we're talking about, waveform amplification and synergy and all these things. It's like, to me, there's a lot of meaning and depth in that layer of this, which is there's the physical manifestation and there is the direct kind of phenomenological enjoyment of being in that state. And there's also kind of a meta analysis, like, well, if these principles work here in body movement and in dance, can they work in the spheres of politics, for example? Like, can we apply the principle we've learned here about how to teach, how to learn, how to amplify each other, how to create beauty, and can we make that real in our local communities? And so that ended up being the direction that I went with my time afterwards, through the dabbling in a variety of local governance and building a public park and administering a nonprofit and other kind of actual direct application in the physical world of the very same principles. I don't feel like it is a deviation, but rather just my own evolution, which I think was my initial point. It is a natural course in life. And the encounter with flow arts has the ability to heal someone through the fact that it can empower them. It can give them better, stamina and physical strength and endurance, and also bring them a sense of belonging to a community. All of these things that really power someone, that potentiates their life. It sets them forth. It's like, you've got all these tools now. Like, you're in better shape. You love yourself. Other people love you. You feel free to create and expand. And it's like, okay, now like go out and do your thing. Like, find your purpose. Your purpose might not be like the 7-beat behind the back weave, but now that you can do that, you're ready. You're ready to take on the world.
Wow. Thank you so much, Zan. Like, this has given me, just for one, so much more than I expected from you. And I really hope to stay in touch with you and continue to put more pieces together in my flow arts journey, as well as my travel journey and my journey in influencing the world or politics as it relates to play, structured play, dexterity play. There's just one more thing. I was wondering if you had anyone you'd like to shout out to, be it one of your favorite flow artists or someone who had a huge influence in your life, maybe somebody watching or not watching, but it's just someone who has greatly influenced you as a flow artist.
Boy, I mean, so many along the way. It's the proverbial, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Like, anything that I've achieved because of those who came before me. Ananda Rubio founded the Dragon Tribe in Eugene, really welcomed me in my early days. Noel Yee, I mentioned, who helped found the Flow Arts Institute, is an incredible being of not only just dedication and perseverance in his own personal exploration of flow arts, but in the building of community. It would not be what it is today without Noel Yee, who is like the glue of bringing people together from different states, different parts of the world, different countries, and really just so phenomenal. To Alien John for continuing to expand my mental journey with poi, and to my wife Aurora for continuing to expand my heartfelt, authentic, expressive angle of poi as well. And so many more, many good people. Back in the day, the most inspirational spinner to me ever was, his name was Keith Barefoot then, and he's going by Srikanta now, and he's got some material out there. I think he's still in France performing at like you said, a Cirque du Soleil level. He actually was hired by Cirque du Soleil and trained a troupe of 50 fire dancers to like be in one of their productions. And that guy was great. And just in terms of being an incredible elven being, my friend Forrest Schroet has been around for, I said a lot of people after 20 years are not spinning anymore. He is still out there rocking it. And just a very sprightly and mischievous character who wrapped us into many wonderful adventures. So to them and to so many more.
Yeah, well, I hope to connect with more of them. We'll keep these interviews going, keep greater perspectives growing. And thank you again so much for meeting with me, Zan. And it's really great to be able to bring you back out of dust it off a little bit. I hope that this interview has inspired you to at least pick them up again. I'm sure your kids would appreciate it. Let's stay in touch and see how this continues to go and grow and flow.
Great. Thank you so much, Jesse. It's been a real pleasure talking with you. Thanks for dreaming this up and setting it up. And I hope that it is of benefit to people, that it can in any way fuel their journey or bring in some new ideas or inspiration. And I really hope that for those that check out the Encyclopedia, that it makes some kind of difference. I mean, I put a lot of heart and soul into it, and I'm really just happy to be able to give it. Be like, you want it? You just have it. That's not about the money. You just please learn, grow, please teach, expand.
Another philanthropist, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Zan.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for watching. For flow props, head over to sacredflowart.com/shop. Check out more flow artist interviews by clicking one of these video links, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.